her work became a source of empowerment. Susan Taylor, former editor-in-chief of Essence magazine, spent 3 decades promoting positive images of Black women and uplifting Black culture. Recently, she sat down with us to talk about her remarkable journey. You are always so gracious. It is one of the reasons that we all love you. I have to ask you, at 24, you started your own cosmetics company.
Okay.
How did you have the guts to do that at 24? Single mother, and you said, I'm going to do this. And that is eventually how you sort of landed at Essence.
That's exactly right. I think I'm a person who believes that any need can be met and fulfilled. And the ones that I think that I could have some power in helping to move along or to close a gap, I want to dive in there, whether I'm leading it or just being a part of it. And we're talking about a time when Black women, women who were beyond pale skin, could not go into any five and dime store, as we used to call them, or department store and find cosmetics, find makeup that suited our complexions. And so I said, I'm going to start a custom blended, line. And I called up a bunch of chemists. I spoke to them about a golden undertone that most Black people have, and they were intrigued by it. Created the formulations, and I had a little place in the Bronx called the Face Place on 165th Street. And women would come in, and I would mix the makeup, and they would purchase it. So that's what led me to Essence, yes. And they heard about it, went down for an interview with Ida Lewis, the then editor-in-chief, and she gave me a shot.
Yeah, she gave you a shot and you ran with that shot. So how long was it between that job? Was it beauty editor, I think?
That's right.
And before you became the primary, the editor-in-chief?
Well, it went from beauty editor to fashion and beauty editor, and then editor-in-chief 10 years.
By that time, at least you thought you knew what you knew, right?
No. Being fashion and beauty editor is far apart from being the editor-in-chief of the magazine. Because as fashion and beauty editor, I created the covers, the fashion, and it was maybe like a 15, 16-page portfolio and covers. But I was not involved in the guts of the magazine, those hard stories. And there was resistance. There was resistance when Ed Lewis offered me the job. At first, I said, no, thank you. That's well beyond anything I could do. I hadn't gone to college yet, you know? It wasn't a job that I wanted. I loved being the fashion and beauty editor because we didn't have a full representation of Black beauty. And it gave me the opportunity to say, oh, can you come up to the magazine if you're interested? I'd love for us to photograph you. I'd love for you to be on the cover. This is well before celebrities dominated all the covers. And it gave us the opportunity to really show the full breadth of Black beauty, from a Margarita Razme who's pale skin with blue eyes, to Phyllis Yvonne Stickney, who is chocolate and gorgeous.
So what was it that made you finally say, I'm ready to be in charge of the whole thing?
Well, don't tell my husband. Well, he knows. I was going to say, don't tell my husband, because I'm married to the best person, best man I know. I called up my guy that night. Mel knew this. Let me call his name. Columbia University, lawyer, MBA. And I said, this is a joke. Guess what? I just had dinner with Ed Lewis, and he's talking about me stepping into the editor-in-chief's role. That's a joke. He said, you have exactly what Black women need. And there are times when you need people who you believe in to believe in you. And when you hear that, it can touch your heart if it's coming from the purity of another person's heart. And it was. And I went into the office the next day and went into Ed Lewis's office, leaned on his desk, and said, I'm ready.
What is it that you wanted, that you thought when you went into the job, you said, okay, we're going to have plenty of fashion and beauty, but Black women deserve a little bit more than that. So what was your game plan, or did you develop that game plan over time?
It wasn't that Black women needed more. I think, Sandra, it was that I was more the reader than any of the editors, who were highly educated, who were journalists, who were phenomenal. And there I was, I'm a single mother. I'm raising my daughter. I was married for 3 years before our daughter was born, and then she was 6 weeks old when I was on my own. And so I understood the struggles of single mothers, and a lot of the women we were serving, happened to be single mothers. I understood, the challenge of being married and then unmarried and scuffling and trying to keep the roof over your head and food on the table. And I was driven by what I knew. not by what only Rita Mail was saying, what I felt, women needed. And the phenomenal team. I'm a team builder. I'm not going to take full credit for anything. It's really having fine minds around you and being humble enough to listen and to allow people to have their say without shutting them down.
But that team needed a phenomenal leader, and they got it. I mean, I think for a lot of people, I said this to you earlier, you cannot say Essence without saying Susan Taylor. You can't say Susan Taylor without saying Essence. Were you surprised that you did become such a representative of the brand? I saw myself, as you mentioned, no matter who the Black woman was, she saw herself
Right.
in the magazine, in addition to wonderful articles about our health when did you suddenly realize that people were gushing about you? I mean, look, I remember that, but in the spirit, I think I carried in the spirit around with me forever, because you just spoke to me. When did you realize that you really had something that women were clamoring to hear more of and to be a part of? And don't you tell me that you did not realize that.
I have to tell you the truth that
You d
when you're working and building, you're not looking at what you've built, you're looking at what you're going to build. And if you're working on a magazine, you probably have 4 issues going at the same time, the one you're putting to bed, the one that you're writing, the one that you're editing, and the one that you're assigning. So I never really took time to think about that. I would speak around the country and people would receive me well, but I think the accolades, I'm learning how to receive them. Because you know what we do as women.
Oh,
"Oh, no, no,
I'm right here
don't
now
count,
going,
please. No,
"Don't
no, no.
tell
That's
me."
not me. Oh, thank you." And we move on to something else. "I love your dress. Oh, it only costs $20." You know?
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what we do.
Right. Rather than accepting. And the way I look at it now, I am so proud that I had the wherewithal to tell the truth about my life. Because that's not what magazine editors were doing at the time. We were writing about what was in the magazine. Marsha Gillespie, who preceded me, wrote about the social environment, the
Yeah.
political environment, and she was absolutely phenomenal. And I built on what Marsha created. But I have to tell you that I was like, what am I going to write about? I hadn't gone to college. I can't do what Marsha did, so I didn't want to write an editorial. And Ed Lewis said, you're going to be the editor in chief of the magazine. You have to write one. So I said, let me write about what I know. Let me write about myself, not myself so much, but spirituality and the path that we are on, trying to move toward wholeness, not understanding that we're already there and that life is challenging no matter who you are, how much money you have, no matter, what your circumstances are, that, there are times when there's laughter and tears and joy and sadness. And I said, I'm going to tell the truth about those things.
So people were really responding to the fact that they felt as if you were actually writing about their lives too.
I think so.
Are you proud of what you managed to build with your phenomenal team at Essence? I mean, you've just a legion, you and the magazine, a legion of devoted fans that felt like it represented who and what they were.
Extremely proud. Extremely proud. I mean, I take a bow, but I'm holding hands, with the large group of people who have to bow down to the audience that served us by subscribing and writing to us and correcting us and telling us the truth about what was working and what was not working. It was really like a beautiful kind of back and forth building of a relationship. I felt like I knew the Essence readers. They believed that they knew me, that they knew us. Very proud of what we were able to do. And I'll tell you, the reason that we were so free was because on the business side, they never dictated. They never once said, this is what you should do. You know, Ed Lewis one day said to me, I hope you can put, Jesse Jackson on the cover. It's when he was running in 1984, their first presidential run. And I said, it's already done. It's already done. It's the only thing in all those years of leading Essence that was ever asked of me or any of the other editors by the business side. And I think it's that kind of freedom
Yeah.
that allows you really to build for the audience you serve.
Also, you knew how important that was to the community. So it became really not about what you wanted or it's what the community needed, actually, I think.
You're
You
right.
responded to
And this is
that.
what I want to do. We were so proud. It was such an incredible moment. And he was so important in the growth of Essence.
It's hard to imagine, today's environment, media environment, economic environment. Would an Essence work today?
Right. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Social media, there's so much online. The environment has changed dramatically. Essence didn't really have competition. There's a lot of competition out there today.
And
Ebony was its
everywhere.
own thing. And the Jet, as the folks called it,
Bitch,
Jet
I
magazine,
know.
we waited for it.
Yep.
That's how we knew what was going on in
And
Black
stacked them up in a
America.
corner like it
Absolutely.
was a library book,
That's
so
right.
you could go back and look at the Jet Beauty 5 months down the road.
That's right. But, Essence didn't really have competition. And it was a time when, Black women, we were coming into our own. We were appreciating our beauty, our hair, our lips, our bodies, and that hadn't happened before like that. And Essence came along, it was 1970, the height of the Black Power movement. And we seized every moment to create a stage upon which Black beauty and intelligence and ferocity and what we had built could be reflected.
Did you have any inkling of how big your life would get? Your life is made big, I think, by the people's lives you touch. And you managed to touch millions of lives in ways for a lot of them they can't even imagine. That's a big life, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
I hear it continuously now. And it moves me, it touches me, and I receive it. But I have to tell you, when we were building, I never thought about it. It was how can we say, oh, here's a story. Oh, guess what I saw today? Oh, this is what somebody told me. That's a piece that we need to cover, that we need to find the right reader to really amplify so that we can understand. Essence was a lot about our understanding ourselves and the journey that we were on, and that we weren't on it alone, that there's a history. And Marsha Gillespie really taught us that had to be honored, that we had to really understand the women who came before us, what we were building upon, what that struggle was. And I think it filled our hearts with gratitude and pride. And, it was, in many ways, the work was easy because it was for us.
Mhm.
Today, in this environment, there is so much noise, so much competition, so much mean-spiritedness. We weren't dealing with
Yeah.
mean-spiritedness. But today, there's a lot to not say because you're afraid that somebody's gonna try to take you down, put you off the air, you know, shut you up. We didn't have that challenge.
What do you think is the lasting legacy of Essence? Not just of Susan Taylor, but I guess I would think part of the legacy is just the millions of women who took something from those pages.
I think the lasting legacy of Essence is that it's a record. It's a record of a point in time that will never be forgotten because out of that magazine grew the Essence television show. Essence Eyewear, Essence Hosiery, the Essence Awards, and the Essence Music Festival, which continues on beautifully and brilliantly. So much came from just wanting to and knowing how to serve our people. And there was a hunger. There was a hunger for what was being delivered. And I think the legacy is really that Essence was true to the community, it was true to the culture. It not only carried the culture, it created the culture.
And interestingly enough, Essence wasn't the only place where you found yourself serving the community. Katrina hit, and you immediately said, we have to do something. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about the cause that is near and dear to your heart and that you've spent the last 2 decades working on. Okay?
Okay, thank you.